Americans in the Indy 500, Australians in the Bathurst 1000, the French and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the British. Well, you couldn't ever hope to separate them from the British Grand Prix. With Silverstone being the home of that iconic race for over 30 years now, it seems like almost a requirement that this series would make a visit here to the center of British racing. Expect more than a few drivers to be eager to claim the top step of this one. We'll see who that winds up being as we get ready to watch round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, I'm just going to step aside and let you have this one. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe, for leaving me a blank space on my script and trusting me to fill it in with relevant information about this race. I promise I won't mess around with this. Now, the world cheetah population is declining and the species was recently reclassified as endangered. Just to let everyone know, save the cheetahs. Talking about fast ins, this whole configuration of the Silverstone circuit has a lot of long straights and high top speeds, and it's 3.194 miles around with 17 turns in all. These drivers will be racing just 39 laps here tonight, but still a rather long race, even though it's not full distance. So we'll have to see how the tyres hold up during the course of this Grand Prix. The one thing maybe not realistic about this race is it's not raining here at Silverstone today. To give you an idea of how to get around this place, let's take a lap on board our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Harrison Finch in the GSRC McLaren, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming up to Cops, it's only a small stab of the brakes in this car, and then you're pretty quickly going to be back on the power, so don't expect much passing into here. Use up all the curbs as you bleed back into the gas, and then switch sides for the entry into Maggots Beckett's. It's an incredibly fast entry with the downforce that this car offers, but that also means you won't expect much side-by-side action through here, and following closely to the car ahead will be very difficult. The most important aspect here is setting up for the run onto the hangar straight. This is the longest flat-out section of the track, and naturally, it's also your DRS zone. Expect most of the passes here into Stowe, but this off-camber blind corner never needs the car to dip below 150 miles an hour. Watch out though, because sometimes your opponent can get a crossover move and surprise you under braking in a Vale. Club really requires some patience with the throttle, and don't forget that the pavement on the exit is fair game. Switch sides and you've got your second DRS zone down into Abbey. This is another relatively common spot for overtakes. A small breathe of the throttle is needed on the exit, then before you know it, you're into bridge. This is a tricky one because normally you'd want to bring the car to the right for priority, but on certain occasions you'll get surprise attacks while braking for this left-hander. Here's the busiest part of the track when it comes to inputs. This slow final technical portion might be a bit frustrating, but there's a lot of time to be lost if you're not maximizing your speed. Luffield will be especially important to make sure you get a good run off of it. Straighten out Woodcote, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Silverstone. There's a lap around this classic British circuit. Now, let's take a quick look before we get some qualifying times in of the championship order. After 3 rounds, we're starting to get a better picture of how this season is going to go. Rado Domingo still up at the top, but Nicholas Rasmussen, 21 points. He's holding on quite well, and Calistani is slipping back each race, but with his performances, you just never know. He could bring that back forward. Kyle Germanton, steady as she goes from the U.S., is a little farther down, but expect him to maybe finish within the top 5 here. And Peo Peeve, kind of hot and cold, could do a little bit better this season, could climb up the order as we watch Talmon work his way around on his qualifying laps. Now, Sam, we might have viewers who've never watched this series before, so why don't you fill them in on the race details for today?
Well, it's basically a shortened version of a Formula One race, so that means no free repairs for these drivers. They have enough fuel to go to the end, but of course the tyres will probably require one stop, although we have seen a bit of strategy being played in the previous couple of races. This is an open setup, but drivers can do whatever they want to these McLarens within the regulation to make them go faster. This is round 4 of 12, but each raindrop represents a drop week. So we have 4 raindrops. That means at the end of the season, only your best 8 results will count, just like Formula One used to do back in the day.
I believe Jorge Montañez is going to be our first driver to get a time in as he crosses the line. He is indeed a 120.3, sets the marker. Tommy Osgaard is the next one to come across at a 120.1. Stefan Schmidt, unfortunately, not going to be able to be faster than either of them. Peeve gets himself onto the second row momentarily. Bedrolozzi looks like he's going to be fast today as well. They all tumble across for their first lap. Always hard to tell exactly how things are going to shake out with them each having the track to themselves because they're going to come in a little fast here at the start. Harrison Finch, one of our faster drivers, one of our race winners so far this season. Positive team sport driver, comes through Woodcote. And as he crosses the line, don't think he got a lap time in. Actually, that must have been his outlap. So the first initial round of drivers making their way through. It looks like Aurélien Talmont is going to be the only driver to get into the 119s at a 119.7. He's got a whole 4/10 over Osgaard here.
Wow, and this is the first we've seen of Aurélien Talmont in one of these races this season here on the GSRC. However, the #1 car indicates he has the highest I rating for this race, so it shouldn't be too surprised. We shouldn't be too surprised to see him up there. Also, obviously, you mentioned for our new for our new viewers, the race details there at the top of the show. Joe, for our returning viewers, we're seeing a lot of names return who we've seen as top performers in round 2 and round 3. The second round of the season was at Spa, where we saw Harrison Finch go from last to first. He hasn't put in a lap time yet. And then last week we were at the Nürburgring where Jorge Montañez dominated the race. He's currently third on the grid, so it'll be interesting to see how Montañez and Finch stack up against each other and if anyone else can trump them.
Interesting development. Nicholas Rasmussen, who's high up in the points, only puts his car 8th. Now, he missed his first qualifying lap, had it off somewhere, and it did not count. So he only had one go at this one, and it was not that great a one. So that's going to certainly put him on the back foot today.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of time in the session, and these cars are plenty fast enough for you to get more than one qualifying time in. I mean,
they only have 2 laps that they're allowed to count, though.
Ah, okay. Yep, good point.
And Harrison Finch is in the same position. His first lap did not score. He is the only driver right now without a lap on the board, but we should say we've seen this before from Harrison when we covered Spa, but I don't think he particularly wants to do that all over again.
Finch was not too pleased with having a start at the back of the Belgian Grand Prix, but it did result in a terrific charge through the field for the positive team sport driver.
His teammate, Jorge Montañez, only has his first lap down. He's coming around for a second. So he works his way through Brooklands, now into Luffield. Last place where you have to mash the power down. Gets it firmly to the floor around Woodcote. He sits in 3rd right now. Can he topple his time down any further? The answer is no. No better than 3rd today for last week's winner.
So let's pick up Finch as he ends his lap here. Now you see that there's going to be a lot of these these cars in this race. The positive team sport team is well represented in this series. You'll be able to tell them apart from the different the different rims on the wheels. Finch across the line, and he is going to filter into the middle of the field, 7th place.
So I feel like we're going to have a number of drivers out of order today, that's for sure. Most of them have put their laps in. So while we have a moment, we just want to give a big thank you to all of our donators who have helped make this broadcast possible. So just a quick little thank you up on the screen of those who have put together some money to help bring this thing to air. And with that, double checking to see if we've got anybody else that needs to put their second lap in, and I don't think there's anybody. Everybody has got their times in. Let's go through the grid of top split here for round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series. 17 cars today. Aurélien Talmont, apologies if we've got that name wrong. will be starting on the pole, only driver to get under the 120s and by a big margin. So we'll see if he's able to scamper away with this one. Tommy Osgaard is going to be on the outside of that front row. Jorge Montañez is going to have to work a little bit harder to get this one compared to last week, starting third. Manu Domingo, who leads the championship, will start in fourth. Then Benjamin Lindsay will begin in P5, followed by Pierre Faber in 6. Harrison Finch, we've seen him win one from the very back. Can he do it from the mid-pack? In 7th, Matteo Calistani starts next to him in 8th. Nicholas Rasmussen in 9th. And Richard Arnaud starts in 10th. Sam?
Starting out page number 2, we got Carl Germanton lined up in 11th place ahead of Tanguy Padrazzoli. Evan Lathores, the hard-to-pass Australian, will be starting in 13th ahead of Peyo Peeve. Peeve, as you mentioned, Sean, being a bit hot and cold, a bit of a cold start, it looks like, for him here at Silverstone. Kevin Fortman is going to be starting 15th ahead of Ollie Croker for quite far back in the field. And Stefan Schmidt rounding out the field, but do not call these drivers slouches by any stretch of the imagination. This is a top split, the entire field covered by 1.8 seconds in qualifying.
Certainly is going to be a difficult one today. A lot of high-speed corners as well as a number of chicanes. And we've seen this car a little bit harder to control in the slow corners where you don't have the downforce to help you stick to the road. As we watch each of the cars grid up here, Ollie Kwolka, who we sadly have talked to early in a couple of races recently, both in the IndyCar and here in the F1 car. Another one of our popular teams, Affinity Racing, showing itself once again as the cars are now out there on the grid. The engines start to rev here in round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series. Green flag is out, and it's a horrible start for pro Tommy Osgaard as he loses positions 3 wide up into the first turn. One of them backs out. Manu Domingo tries to go up the inside of Osgaard and is successful. His teammate Jorge Montañez gets himself up into second, and Talmon holds on to first.
Only just so, Joe. I mean, you mentioned the bad start for Osgaard. Talmon did not get a good start by any stretch of the imagination either, and Montañez was looking on the outside as they went into the first turn for that lead. He wasn't able to capitalize on it, but Montañez started third. He's already up into second place. They're going down the Hannah Straight now. A lot of them single file, side-by-side battle, back for around 7th, 8th place. In goes Arnaud. He hits Calistani, and Germanton has to take evasive action onto the grass. They all seem to have gotten away with it.
Pedrazzoli got the best of it. We'll come back to it later, but he just made contact with Arnaud. He is an absolute pinball today as he's still battling with Calistani. And Calistani is going to come out the better of those two. However, only in 10th. Very rough first lap here in the mid-pack. A bit of an incident behind them as 2 cars spin off. That's Peeve and Germanton.
Catch a replay of this. Fortunately, Joe, even though it looks like a bit of an ugly start, especially for these Formula One cars, which are so fragile, every car seems to still be running. We'll get a replay exactly what happened here at the top of the hill.
That looks like just got a little close together, trying to go side by side through the chicane, and they tipped one another. And we saw one of the Affinity teammates, I believe that was Schmidt, having to take evasive action as we come back live already on lap 2 of this 39-lap race.
Yes, a lap 1 in the books. Talmon leading Montañez, Domingo, Osgaard, Finch is up into 5th place from 7th on the grid. Pierre Faber running in 6th ahead of Nicholas Rasmussen. Benjamin Lindsay, Tanguy Padrazzoli, and Matteo Calistani round up top 10.
Look at this action on screen with Rasmussen, though. Oh! As way to the outside, Faber, unfortunately, going to lose out, and he's now under threat as a car spins behind them. That's Lindsay trying to go on the attack, and Padrazzoli going off track.
I can't say I've never done that before, trying to get too much power out of club there. Very easy to do.
So much power in these cars. And Lindsay not able to try and get past Faber after he was under attack. Now they work their way through the single file technical last section of the circuit. Around Luffield they go. And on to the front stretch through Woodcote, where they are flat out once again. A lot of action happening here in the mid-pack to keep track of, but your leader is still Talmon since the drop of the green.
But most significantly, he's leader by less than 1 second. Can you give me a D? Can you give me an R? And can you give me an S? Because here we go down the Hannah Straight. It is lap number 3, and those rear wing flaps are going to be opening.
This is going to make the difference. 2 DRS zones here today. That one we just saw, and on the lap guide, if you paid attention, the next one coming up here out of club. I believe Montaña should be close enough yet again as the cars string together and then expand apart out of this long right-hander. Not everybody taking too wide of a line out of there. Seems like people behaving, staying within the curb, but they can if they want to. No penalty, no 1X to go wide. Behind the top two, looks like quite a good fight between Domingo and Oscar. Remember, Oscar started in second. He's been slotted down to fourth, but the World Championship driver pulling way to the outside, using the track limits as far as he can go in that Coanda car.
Oh, great battle for ninth, but I think it might almost be over because Kalistani put a couple of tyres in the gravel, but he was able to continue. That was Richard Arnaud just worked his way by Kalistani in infield, and now Evan Lathoris just on the outside of the top 10. Meanwhile, we have a car in the pits. It's Petrozzoli. I don't know if he was involved in an incident earlier this lap.
It's definitely a little too early for a regular stop, as Petrozzoli, as whoa, we see a battle on screen here. Lathoris and Arnaud.
Kalistani. Lathoris just got by Kalistani here. I think what's happening is Kalistani does have a bit of front wing damage, and that's hurting him.
Not often you see cars side by side down through the Maggots-Beckett sequence, but Lathoris made it work. We've seen that Australian make gritty drives before. Today, he's ready to do another. Meanwhile, back up to third, Domingo and Oscar still hard on it. Oscar is going to get the DRS, but he's not close enough to attack into Abbey.
It's amazing. You always have these long straights, such as the Hannah Straight. They always seem to go on forever when you're driving like a Mazda Miata around here. Then you put yourself in an F1 car, open a DRS. You wish it was twice as long.
Flying down at over 200 miles an hour will tend to shorten the straight a little bit. Looking back from Domingo on the car of Oscar, still unable to do anything. I imagine with some of the faster quarters around here, Sam, is it pretty hard to follow cars ahead?
Oh yeah, I definitely think that's going to be the case over in the Maggots-Beckett complex, which is a difficulty because you kind of want to try and stay right behind the car in front of you so you can get the maximum effect out of the DRS down the Hannah Straight. I haven't really seen any passes down there today, at least not since lap 1 when things got a little bit wild in the midfield. However, I almost wonder now that we're 5 laps into this race. Every driver knows where they started, knows how the opening few laps has gone. Now we might see, I wonder, some drivers start to back off a little bit if they're realizing, okay, in order to make the most out of my race, I might need to conserve my tires here and try and maximize this first stint.
So it's a lot like real life then, where drivers kind of have to make a go at it real quickly, and if it doesn't come off, maybe let go for a bit and rethink it?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think we saw a little bit of that at Spa. Oscar right now, I wonder if he's going to have a decision to make here because he's quite close behind Domingo for third place. And I almost have a feeling if you're in the position he is, where if he gets it within striking range of Domingo, but can't make anything work after a couple laps, will it be worth it just to back off a little bit and play a strategy game instead? Haven't talked much about the weather conditions here today. It is quite cool, not unusual for England. Track temperature of 78 degrees Fahrenheit, so the tyres, it's actually up to 82 degrees Fahrenheit now, it's still quite cool though, so the tyres aren't going to take a huge beating around here, but 4 fresh tyres will always come in handy later on in the race.
Mostly cloudy will certainly do that as we watch this battle for 6. Rasmussen leading the way ahead of Faber and Lindsay as they 3 break down. Oh, and a big mistake there from Faber into Vale. But it's still not enough for Lindsay to be able to have a go through club. He's going to get the DRS, and he is very close This is going to be his best opportunity coming up to Abbey, just about 2 car lengths back. Is still not close enough, as the Mid-South driver is going to have to wait for another chance.
You mentioned Mid-South driver, that of course being a location within the United States. Talking about the British drivers, British fans that really always been a fan of a British Grand Prix here, Joe. We only have one British driver in this field, and that's the driver of the number 9 car currently running in 5th place, Harrison Finch.
Yes, our lap guide driver has done a good job to get himself from 7th on the grid up 2 spots here into the top 5, but I think he's going to want more than that, possibly a podium, hopefully a win for him. And as he works his way through Beckett's and then Chapel onto the hangar straight, he's in a bit of the same position as the car ahead. Osgaard hasn't really been able to make any inroads.
Yeah, Osgaard still riding within striking range of Domingo. If Domingo slipped up or anything, actually Montañez is kind of dropping back into the clutches of these two for the first time this lap. I think of a race, Montañez was not within DRS range of Talman. So we could get an interesting pack forming for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th place with Harrison Finch. Worth noting that if they do have a 4-car battle, Osgaard is the only one of those 4 who is not a positive team sport driver.
As mentioned before, racing for Coanda out there, known for their speed here on iRacing. Certainly getting a little bit of a train starting to form behind Montañez. You have to wonder if maybe he used up his stuff a little bit there early on, trying to chase down Talman, who is now stretched out to about 1.1 seconds, well clear. He's got the speed for qualifying. So far, 8 laps in, it looks like he's also got the race pace here today to take a win in round 4. Let's jump back to 12th, because Lathoris, who's been in a lot of fighting today, has not been able to shake Calistani, driver who we've given a lot of screen time so far this season. It looks like he's going to get some more the way this is shaping up. They've also got a 3-way fight, because Kevin Fortman is behind them, the DH driver, seeing what he can do. Oh, and he's got DRS. He's looking to the inside, takes a dive down into Stowe, but he's not close enough.
Yeah, well, normally we expect Calistani to be up further than this. He does have front wing damage, and in front of him, Arnaud is off. Arnaud is off the track, comes back on, but right back in front of Lathoris. So that's going to... Lathoris actually might be in DRS range here. He's not going to make anything happen into Abbey, though. But 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th throw a blanket over them.
We didn't catch it on screen, but Arnaud actually spun it on his own into Vale. Not sure if it's really worth a replay, but basically outbraked himself trying to stay out of the car ahead. And now, instead, he's paying attention to the cars behind. Look at how close Lathoris and Calistani are. Matteo doing all he can to find a way through. This might help, having a car ahead to try and check up Evan.
Now, of course, Calistani is going to be one of the drivers whose strategy, unfortunately, was already made for him early on in the race, and that's to pit as soon as possible so that he can get that front wing repaired and have a nice, pristine car for most of the race. He just can't pit now, of course, because that would basically require him, I think, to do about 31 laps on another set of tyres, if not even turn it into a 2-stop strategy. Oh, good battle going on for 6th place. Rasmussen, side by side. Faber looking down the inside as they come into Vale. Neither of them willing to give each other the turn. Rasmussen coming out on top as they exit club. Back there in the popcorn position, Benjamin Lindsay trying to look maybe for a way to get up into 7th. Yes, here he goes.
Down to the inside into Abbey, and just can't quite outbrake Faber. Great stuff between these 3. Not easy to go through any of the chicanes on this track side by side, as now they work their way out of Priory and into Brooklands. Now, you mentioned the wing damage on some of these cars. I also wonder, we've seen a few offs along the way. Is that likely to create under-tray damage like you can expect in real life? Is that going to slow the drivers down?
I'm not entirely sure about that, Drew. It may very well do. These cars are incredibly sensitive to stuff like that. The good news, this track's fairly smooth. I mean, Silverstone built on an old Air Force base, so it's kind of flat all the way around here. I'll tell you one driver who I don't know if he had an off-course, but he certainly did not have an ideal lap last time around, and that was our race leader, Aurélien Taumann. He had a 1 second lead. It was only half a second over Jorge Montañez's last lap around. So Taumann's lap number 9 did not go to plan, and on lap 10, which they're on now, he's going to have to try and find a way to open that gap back up.
You can see the rest of the podium behind him, and then a few more cars on top of it to boot as they break for Abbey one more time. Drivers having to be so incredibly precise around here to get everything out of it. Domingo right now in this train of cars, the closest of anybody to his teammate Montañez. So we ride on board with Manu, coming up to Luffield. One of the best places to try to gain some time, not having to rely as much. Go ahead, Sam.
A big off for Faber. I think both him and Rasmussen put their wheels in the gravel exiting Priory back there. Faber, though, his mistake was big enough, it cost him a position to Benjamin Lindsay. Here we get on replay.
Oof, yeah, way off there. That absolutely cost him that spot. Lindsay now has himself up into 7th. This is a bit of a climb back for Benjamin. Remember, he had early problems. He started in 5th, so he's still got 2 more spots to go to get back even where he was. See if he can have a go at Rasmussen. He's going to have the DRS climbing his way up the hanger straight towards Stowe. Rasmussen defends to the inside, going to make him go the long way around on this off-camber corner. I think he might be able to get it done using the extra grip. Great job by Lindsay, but it's not done yet as they break towards Vale. He's got the inside for the corner. Finally gets it done, and Rasmussen is tipped around.
And Faber and Rasmussen are both off. They're losing multiple positions. Here's what happened.
Well, Faber was trying to stay close so that he could take advantage of the battling going on ahead. Just did not expect Rasmussen to be that slow into the corner. And it looked like it might have been a little bit of net code. They weren't completely on top of one another. We're going to watch on board Faber. Yeah, he was definitely a little far away. About half a foot between those cars when that car turned around. Unfortunate, but the realities of sim racing, Sam.
Yeah, also, unfortunately, the realities of sim racing, where a sport such as Formula One, loved by drivers from all across the world. You get 17 people playing on their computers from all across the world. Not all of the internets are going to agree with each other's. So back to Benjamin Lindsay, the driver who made the most out of all of that, getting those 2 positions from those mistakes here within a matter of a lap, really. He started 5th, he dropped back at the start of the race, has now made his way back up into 6th. I'll be interested in seeing what he can do, try and maybe run Harrison Finch down for P5 late on. There's 6 seconds between them right now, though.
And 14th saw a change of position. Kyle Germanton, who had a spin early on, just overtook Ollie Quokka down the hanger straight with the help of DRS. You can see that Affinity Cars got it done. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but after seeing the bad results lately here on GSRC for Quokka as he wiggles his way through the club, you kind of have to root for the guy. You want to see him at least get to the end of one of these races, way off the apex through Abbey. Certainly not going to help him. But he's down to 15th now in this 17-car field. Only 1 DNF so far, and that was Pedrozzoli.
Yeah, Affinity Racing, though, we're currently running back there now in 14th and 16th place because Stefan Schmidt started towards the back and got involved in some action early on as well. So those 2 drivers both trying to make their way back up through the field where this pack is.
Now, we're on lap 13, and these cars, as Sam mentioned, start with the same amount of fuel for the whole race, which means they are going to get lighter and lighter. So the tires won't take as much of a beating. You have to wonder, Sam, are we going to see a little bit before halfway for these pit stops for tires, potentially?
That entirely depends on the driver's decision, I have a feeling. It could also be a team thing, but we'll see teammates coming on the same lap. Depends, does your car have any damage from the opening stint? If so, you want to make an early stop to get that repaired. Right now, I think Taumann is quite content right now, just running in first place to see how far he can go. That being said, of course, you always have to be concerned with the undercut. And with the top 4 running within 2 seconds of another, if Oscar comes in 1 lap, you can bet the 3 drivers in front of him, I'm sure, will be back. It will be in the lap right after.
That is one of our closest battles up there at the front between the top 4. A little bit farther down, really the only cars close to one another are Lathoris, Fortman, and Faber. Faber, we know, just had an incident not too many laps ago up into Vale. So the driver who started in 6th, sadly, all the way down to 12th, and right now, seeing what he can do on the DH driver of Fortman. The answer so far is not much. Watch from Fortman's view. There you see the DRS opening up as he's also behind Lathoris, but neither car is close enough to one another to have a go.
I'll tell you what, Talman's been doing a good job of something the Frenchman hasn't done in 1,000 years in England, and that's conquering the event. But saying that, though, he is really getting that train start to stack up under him. Might almost be a safe call, I think, for Talman to try and be the early one to pit so that no one behind him can try that undercut, but Oscar comes in. And this is huge. I think the other guys are either going to have to respond or they're going to have to try an alternate strategy.
Are the dominoes about to fall? The VRS Coanda driver cycles down the pit lane at a slow 45 miles an hour, looking for his stall. We expect about 25 to 30 seconds for the bogey in pit lane. As there we go, hop on board, exiting out, and a battle for the lead as Talman is side by side. This is with Jorge Montañez going on the attack, is around the outside of Vale. He's going to switch to the inside of Club. He's still got a nose in. If he can just stay with him, he's going to get the DRS through here, I believe, and his teammate just behind him, Domingo, taking a look. Nobody willing to give up. Still side by side coming through Abbey. Finally, he's able to sneak by, and Talman, as you said, though he's been leading, is now under attack.
The problem now, Joe, if they all come in the pits this lap, that just cost them a huge amount of time to each other, and I think Oscar will be a new leader. I almost wonder if now they're going to be forced to stay out and try and pit late on in the race, sacrifice, but here comes Montañez. I don't think that was a wise decision to take that fight. Arnaud is off.
That was through Brooklands, it looks like. Coming out of Priory, you're going to see that car just get a little squirrely. Clatters across the grass, thankfully slowed down enough before he gets into the barrier and continues back on in 8th spot.
So Oscar already going into the first corner. Montañez leaving his pit stall. Mind you, Montañez though pit right at the exit of the pits, but you can see, as you mentioned, Oscar far ahead of Montañez just because those 3 battling for position when someone was playing the undercut strategy on them. I mean, I just think that was bad timing. Yeah, he was behind him, so he might not have been paying close enough attention to realize. Or maybe he was trying to attack thinking, I'm faster. If I can get by, I can get some hot laps in. Well, regardless, it did not work because there's now a nearly 2-second gap between Oscar and Montañez. That should theoretically get Oscar at least up into the podium after the pit stops. And he's... Oh, Manu Domingo now having problems, and that's for sure another position if Domingo stops now. Now, the one hope for these guys is that before we went to that incident, Oscar is coming into traffic. He had a clear bit of space when he came out, but the cars behind him are so much slower as we get a look at this replay. Yeah, we're back live now, and Talman and Domingo are in the pits, where we know Domingo is going to come out nowhere near Oscar because of that spin, but Talman could, and as you mentioned, things will really get spicy, although a lot of those midfield drivers are coming into the pits this time, so that'll free up the traffic.
And I believe Oscar is by. Oscar has effectively taken the lead with that pit stop What a call by the Coanda driver. He has not cycled through yet. You can see on your screen, still in 6th. And he has to deal with this traffic, but all of his competitors have now pitted, and all of them have made strategic errors of their own or driver errors that have cost them position.
And look how much it meant just the fact that Montañez pitted a lap earlier than Talman. He's been able to pull out a second on him.
Wow, early stop has meant a lot. Now, the one thing that is going to be different is that it's just a couple laps more on the tires of Osgard, but I really don't think that's enough to make a difference in the huge gap that he's pulled on his main competitors as he tries to make another overtake. And this is where it gets dangerous because these drivers do not have to pull over. There are no blue flags here because this is for position.
And Faber has already been involved in the wars a little bit today. I have a feeling if Oscar had been watching our broadcast, he'd want to make sure this is a clean and cut pass. Meanwhile, our current race leaders, Finch and Lindsay, are into the pits.
Stuck into the inside. He's given the apex by Faber. Coming down to the front stretch. I think this is going to be a slam dunk with his nose in. And yes, indeed, you can move Osgard now up to 3rd with a few more cars cycling through on the pit cycle.
I told you, one of the drivers I thought would be the first into the pits is Matteo Calistani to fix that front win. He's currently leading the race. Front runner who hasn't made a stop yet.
And he's not going to be able to no-stop this thing. We're pretty certain of that. Look at that front wing. You are not kidding about the damage on that thing. It's amazing the pace he has been able to keep. Sweet. Osgard now overtakes Fortman. Gets himself up into 2nd, and now he really does have clear track because it is a whole 8 seconds up to Calistani. Though he'll have better pace than the pure team sport driver, I believe that it'll be a couple laps before he runs into him.
Faber has Montañez all over the back of him, but Montañez will want to make quick work of Faber because Talman has been running Montañez down. He only has one, and around goes Faber. That makes it easy. Oh, sorry, that's Fortman.
Oh, Kevin Fortman coming out of Priory. The second driver we've seen today have trouble with that short spurt into the left-hander, and I believe that was our last driver needing to pit.
No,
oh, that's Faber.
Faber going into the pit. Calistani, of course, still has to pit, but he's so far out in front right now. He's no issue with these guys. But Montañez does have one lap older tyres than Talman, and Talman is making full effect of his fresh Pirellis right now, trying to run down Montañez for 3rd place, but provisionally P2.
He's going to get DRS out of Chapel here onto the hanger straight. Stays right in the tire tracks of Montañez. But he's just not close enough. Probably a little bit of use of that ERS as Montañez knew that he was going to have a run on him. Down towards Vale, this battle continues. Just about 3/10 between these two cars for right now. What is for 3rd, but will be 2nd once we see Calistani come in for his stop.
So what can we expect out of Calistani here? He has a damaged car. He's been running around 10th place all race long. I thought he'd be one of the early pitters so that he could get his car fixed and get back up to normal pace. But instead he says, no, this isn't hurting me too much. I'm going to run this first stint deep into the race so that I can go fast at the end of the race and make up lots of positions. This will be interesting seeing where it pans out. The bad news is, if he pit now, I'm pretty sure he'll fall back to about 10th position. Peeve has not made the stop yet. He just came in.
That leaves the only driver left to come in, Calistani, at the moment. And I agree. I'm looking at the timing out there, and since we said 25 to 30 seconds, most likely coming out, just as you said, to 10th. Now that Peeve has cycled through, he's not going to be a part of that equation. So probably battling with either Nicholas Rasmussen or Evan Lathoris. We see Peeve in and out on lap 20. We expect, as we said, a one-stop strategy here, so all these drivers should be good to go to the end.
And even though Osgard was hanging around in 4th place throughout the start of this race, and now we see him used strategy to get himself up front. Anyone who was with us for last week's broadcast at the Nürburgring will know that this guy's no slouch. He was the only guy who was able to keep pressure on Jorge Montañez throughout the opening laps of that race. And unfortunately, it was only a hardware failure that led to his car basically going straight on into a wall that stopped Osgaard of having definitely a podium, perhaps even a win last week ago at the Nürburgring.
And much like real-world Formula One, Tommy Osgaard discovered that technical problems could cost you a potential win as well. Let's hope that those gremlins have been solved. There's a reason why there's a black stripe on that car, and the only one with a black stripe in this split here today, as Osgaard is proving he is not just fast out on track, he's fast with the strategy as well, using it very cleverly to get him up to the front, just waiting for that last driver to cycle out of the way so that he can see that P1 on his F3 screen.
Still can't wonder when that's going to be. Calistani, I think, is quite content to just ride around in first place right now.
And he hasn't been losing too big a chunks of time each lap. It's now only down to 6 seconds.
Yeah, well, he ran a 123.7 last lap around. So let's go back to the guys in ninth place. Nicholas Rasmussen running right there. He ran a 123 too. So Calistani does have to be aware that the longer he stays out with that damage, the more potential positions he could be losing once he makes his pit stop.
And he stays out for lap 22 as well. Now, again, I'm going to put my Bills on tinfoil hat on and have to wonder, Montañez, pure team sport. Calistani, pure team sport. And there's a car sandwiched in between, a Coanda. Is Calistani potentially staying out, waiting for Osgaard to maybe hold him up a little bit before he stops, knowing that he has no chance at this race?
Well, if he is, he's going to have to be waiting another 6 laps. And that's about the time it's going to take Osgaard to run him down at this rate. I almost wonder if Calistani just won't pit at all. I don't think that's wise.
Yeah, no, I said earlier in the broadcast, I just can't see anybody trying to no-stop this race. It's definitely not going to get him a win. Now, it could potentially get him a better finish. If those out there who are Formula One fans wondering how he could do a no-stop, well, there's no rules on iRacing saying you have to take a pit stop for tires, since there is only one tire compound on the sim right now. So, I mean, it's a strategy. I'm not saying it's a good strategy.
Yes, whenever someone uses the old age expression to me of, does this sound like a plan? I'm like, yes, it does. I won't tell you if it sounds like a good plan, but it sounds like a plan by the definition of the word. Let's have a look at another battle here, but same cars. Tommy Osgaard, 123.0 last time around. Jorge Montañez, 122.6. 1 lap fresher tyres for Montañez. He lost out on the undercut, but he's a couple of tenths a lap faster. Will he be able to get Osgaard by the end?
A little bit closer than that. Sorry to jump around, but Pierre Faber, remember, he's had a number of issues this race, and he's trying to make up for it. He's all the way down in 13th. He's incredibly close to Fortman right now. But they hit the Maggots-Beckett sequence, and this is where the test of enduring the wake comes in. Trying to stay close to the car head. Faber doing a fantastic job of that, which is going to reward him with DRS as they hit the hanger straight. Right into the slipstream, duck into the inside. Faber has his nose in, but better on the brakes is Fortman, powering around the outside. That's going to give him the inside for Vale. Faber starts to drop back, but once again, on the rubbered line, he's better under braking. Still not giving up. Fortman with a gutsy drive, not willing to give up any spot. Still side by side, and yet again, poor Faber's going to have the outside, going to have to do it the hard way into Abbey, and this time he gets it done.
Well, what happened Faber there was going through the DRS detection zone. Faber was actually behind Fortman, but once they came out of club and actually got the DRS, Faber was ahead of Fortman. So he was the car in front who had DRS, whereas Fortman didn't have DRS because he had been in front of the detection zone, if that makes sense. And now he was the car behind with no DRS, and basically Faber had the better run down the straight, better line into the turn, got the position.
Clear as mud. But whatever the case, Faber gets himself into 12th on his climb back forward. Could be another 4.5 seconds to catch Peeve, who yet again, as you said, just a little bit hot and cold for Peo, as today only 11th after he waited a long time for his first stop. Maybe needs to do a little bit of planning on his pit stop strategy. That just did not seem to work out, trying to go the alternate route today.
Well, he's still up 3 spots from where he qualified. It could just be a matter of Peeve isn't a huge fan of this track, and if he could salvage perhaps even the top 10 finish out of today, I'm sure he'll take it.
Pit stops are done. We're just about past halfway, so why don't we run down the field, starting with our leader. And I say pit stops are done, except for Calistani, but we're not sure what exactly he's trying to do here. We believe he will cycle through. That means the second but effective first is Tommy Osgard, who's got it down to 2.1 seconds and is continuing to close on the damaged Calistani. Jorge Montañez, well, he started this race into third, and he is in third, but it's been a little bit up and down. He'll cycle into second once Calistani comes in. Talmon started out on the pole and was looking incredibly strong at the start, but his setup does not seem to be a long-run setup, to borrow from the oval side there, as he has now slid it down to fourth. Of course, Harrison Finch back there in fifth, who's going to cycle up into fourth, has been doing a good job trying to move forward after he missed one of his qualifying laps. And Mano Domingo sits in sixth, Sam.
By then, Benjamin Lindsay got off to a bit of a rough start, has been trying to come back. He's running in 7th place ahead of Richard Arnaud. We've seen Arnaud have a few off tracks today, but he's still been able to gain positions from where he started, from 10th up to 8th. Rounding out our top 10, we have Nicholas Rasmussen in 9th position, and Evan Lathores, who's had a bit of a quieter race today compared to what we've seen in the last couple of weeks. He is in 10th place. Now, Joe, you know how you asked me a couple of races ago, is there a cliff that the tyres hit there where they just start dropping off dramatically? Calistani just jumped off that cliff.
Very clearly, because look at Osgard right on top of him. He's got the DRS, but he's not close enough to make the pass. So how quickly can he get by Calistani? Because this is what we were talking about before. Is he going to hold him up for his teammate? The answer is no, as he does not defend to the inside, and Osgard, with those much fresher tires and a much cleaner wing, slices through to take the lead here in round 4.
Yeah, this wasn't looking too bad for Calistani when he was running 1 minute 23. That was about what the mid-pack guys were running too. But his last couple of laps, he's been running mid 1 minute 24s, and I'm just wondering if his tyres, especially with that damage to the front wing, he hasn't built the setup. McLaren didn't build the car to run around being kind to the tyres with a damaged front wing. And so those are just going to get worse and worse. And if he's going down the 1 minute 25s, 1 minute 26s, he could even risk spinning in the closing stages of the race if he kills his tyres enough. That being said, we're only 12 laps away from the end of this sin, and I'm almost wondering if Calistani's committed to this strategy now. It might not be the ideal strategy, but he's going to play it out and try and pull a no-stopper here. Shouldn't put up too much of a fight to his teammate, Jorge Montañez, who should have DRS on him here.
Doing it the way that they used to. Yep, exactly. It looks like Montañez gets himself into second. So now the question is, taking a look at Calistani's pace. Now, we've seen similar stuff from him before, one stopping at Spa, and he made it sort of work. It was an impressive run. So can he do one better and go without any fresh tires through the whole race to get to the end, as now he's got Talmon behind him.
Yeah, Talmon is a different color car, different team from Kalistani, and Kalistani says, no, I might not be as kind to give you an inside line here anytime soon. See if something happens into Cops. If not, that's going to be bad news for Talmon. It'll be, and this could actually be a bit of that team strategy you're talking about here, Joe. If Talmon can't get by through here, he's going to be stuck behind him.
He's defending.
Through maggots and beggars, yeah. Yeah, so now this is helping Finch. The home driver could Finch about. Oh, no, he can't! And into the wall. Finch was looking at a podium, but is now not going to finish this race at all. Kalistani still holding off from Talmon.
We saw it in the background as we continued to watch this battle. DRS going to Talmon down the hanger straight. That one is a slam dunk. Not even Matteo can hold back the Frenchman now. Let's take a look at what happened to Finch. Oh, my goodness. Coming through Cops. Go ahead.
Finch knew it was hammer time. He knew what was going on up there. He knew that podium was staring him right down in the face. And, yeah, it turned the car up full power and backfired.
A little bit too much power, unfortunately. Getting off into the... Yep, you see he caught just a little bit of that AstroTurf. Not as much grip there, even with the downforce of this car. It took a hard hit. Hard enough that he is our second DNF of the day, joining Pedrozzoli, which means 15th goes to Stefan Schmidt now, who is our last car running on track. He's actually in a battle with Quokka. This is, in fact, our closest battle out on track right now for last place on track. Second to last place, really. Quokka so far holding off the Affinity driver. Schmidt qualified in 17th position. And Quokka qualified in 16th. So this is about where they would have wound up anyways. Now down to 11 laps to go here in round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series, taking place in good old England at Silverstone. Oscar, now your leader, now that we believe pit stops really truly are done, as Kalistani is going to lose another spot to another teammate. Domingo gets through.
But Lindsay does not. Kalistani helping out his teammate Domingo here by acting as kind of a spacer between these two.
So Lindsay, we ride on his nose, coming up to the tire-worn car of Kalistani. How many times are we going to see Matteo try this style of race? The Italian defends, but you can see just how tired his tires are. Oh! As around the outside, Lindsay discovers it's actually pretty hard off the racing line to try and go the long way around of Cops.
Yeah, and the real bad news for Lindsay is now he's not within striking range of Kalistani on the Hannah Straight. My guess is he'll have to try and wait until Abbey to make something happen. Oh, he's got a nice run here. This would be a dive bomb.
I'd say he's got it. The inside.
Yeah, there he goes.
This is where I think Matteo, he takes a little look into Vale, but that was not going to happen. His braking power on those old tires just is not what everybody else's.
And he's been saving some time, saved some time here because Arnaud running 7th has spun. Arnaud was the next driver behind him for position. That will move Lethoris up into P7.
I'm going to watch the replay. This was a driver error, unfortunately, as that orange machine finds itself pointed the wrong way coming out of Stowe. He'll return to racing down in 9th. This is another driver, unfortunately. The Frenchman just has not had a clean race. It's been a bit all over the place. And even although he is still up a spot, he started in 10th, but you have to think that he could have done so much better if he had kept it together a little bit more.
And I correct myself. I said Lethoris capitalized on that, moved into 7th. Lethoris moved into 8th, It's Rasmussen who moved up into 7th.
Rasmussen up 2 spots since he started this one. As he works his way back and forth through Maggots and Beckett's. He's pretty clear of most drivers. Got about a 1.5 seconds on Lathor, so he's not going to get DRS. And he's a long way back from Calistani, who's now slid down to 6, but 14 seconds, 15 seconds in 9 laps actually doesn't look impossible.
No, because Calistani's about 2 seconds a lap off the pace, and it's getting worse because his tyres are dead.
And whether or not this was a good strategy, well, Calistani started in 8th. He's in 6th. If he falls to 8th, he really didn't lose or gain anything.
Well, I'd say he gained a little bit, considering the fact that he wasn't going to get an 8th place finish after his car was damaged early on.
This is true. It's a gutsy drive, regardless, from the Italian as he ticks off yet another lap. Not a whole lot of battles going on right now. Well, the closest really has been between those last 2 cars on track, Cuoca and Schmidt. Now, we're getting information that Jorge might have been running faster laps than our leader. Taking a look, a 1:22.9 last time by. What about the rest of them? 24 flat, so that was a slow one. Must have had some traffic. 22.9, 22.6. Tommy Osgard, 23.3, 22.9, 22.9, 22.7. Very consistent. Last one a little slow for Tommy. Wonder if he ran into some traffic.
No lap traffic around him. Could have just been a bit of an off lap. He does have a 2.5 second buffer with only 6 laps left. Oh, wow, that was a moment. No, okay. Well, actually, now this does beg a question here, Joe, because we have been talking about the tyres for Calistani, but all of these drivers made their stops really before the halfway point, as we'll go replay of Osgard's moment there. When they finish their race, they are going to have really old tyres on their McLarens. And the oldest of them, our leader, Tommy Osgard, the first pit that got him the lead. The question is, can he hold on to the lead? Montañez, I believe Montañez pitted 2 or 3 laps later. Actually, let me check here. No, 1 lap. It was 1 lap,
yeah.
And Talman was 2 laps, and that's resulted in them running where they have been now.
Yeah, so only 1 lap difference. That's not really going to be drastic enough to make an advantage for Jorge that I think is going to allow him to attack. That 2.5 seconds that they have between them right now should be plenty. And Osgard's last lap was another 23-second lap, though. So maybe it's... Go ahead.
It could have a battle for 4th shaping up at the end here, Joe. These 2 drivers have had relatively quiet races. Manu Domingo, he's been biding his time. I think he was up there in that top 4 pack early on. Strategy didn't pan out in his favour, and now he's back in 4th place. But also Benjamin Lindsay. Remember, we mentioned he didn't get off to the greatest of starts. He lost a few spots on the opening laps. He's worked all race to catch those back up, and now we could be looking at 1 more position before this is over for the number 12 car.
Yes, nicely done by Lindsay. And the thing that I was thinking of before your point is, even though there's not too much of a difference between the tires, I wonder if it comes down to drivers. And as we watch this battle on screen between Cuoca and Schmidt still going on, glad to see drivers battling as hard as they can no matter what the spot. Cuoca goes defensive up into Abbey as the DRS goes to Schmidt. The Affinity driver going to try and outbrake him into the corner. Can't quite get it done. So Cuoca holds on to 14th for now. But the point that I was going to make is that maybe it's down to driver. Maybe some drivers feel a little bit more comfortable on old tires compared to others, Sam. And maybe Osgard, we've seen a couple errors from him now, is a little bit shaky on old rubber.
Perhaps. I think Calistani is one driver who doesn't seem to mind old tires too much. Here goes about 14th again.
Almost coming together. Oh, so close between Schmidt and Cuoca. Round the outside, Cuoca continues to be able to fend off this Affinity car. into Maggots and Beckett's. He's going to get another bite if he can stay close enough for that DRS zone. He is right on top of his gearbox. Stefan now stays within the tire tracks. That slot opens up. Looks to the outside as Cuoca goes defensive once again. We've seen this long way around work for a few drivers, and it's going to work for Stefan Schmidt.
And that tells you about the quality of drivers we got in this series. This is probably one of the hardest fought and cleanest battles for last place we've ever seen here on the Global SimRacing Channel.
It's a great battle for last place, and now Stefan starts to solidify this one as he pulls away a little bit from Ollie Cuoca. You have to think, though, Ollie probably, after seeing that pass made, is thinking, all right, let's just get to the end of this race. Let's get a checkered flag in our hands. But up towards the front of the field, Manu Domingo has been slowly caught by Benjamin Lindsay. P4 under threat.
Yeah, once you get to drive around the back roads of England a couple of times, you'll learn how these drivers know how to race within close proximity of another. There's always not a whole lot of room for the other cars around you. Let's see how close this is going to get. I have a feeling it's going to get very close with just 3 laps left to go. Lindsay, of course, I mean, they both know what the score is here. They've got 3 seconds up the road to the next car. They've got 10 seconds down the road back to the next car. They know they're fighting for 4th and 5th, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they finish 4th.
And the car behind them is Calistani. Oh, and did Arnaud have another problem? Yes, he did. Arnaud off out of Abbey. And we talk about those old tires. Now, his aren't particularly old, only 18 laps. You're going to see just gooses it a little bit too hard coming out of Abbey.
Well, with the fragility of these Formula One cars, the incident point cap of 17 is nothing that usually gets too much of a concern. If you're up at 17, your car's normally trashed by them, but I've got to start being a bit concerned for Arnaud here.
So as we watch this battle for 4th, the Pure Team Sport driver still trying to hold off Lindsay. As close as Lindsay was able to get, he's dropped off a little now. Wonder if it's a little bit harder to try and stay close when you've got a lot of laps on the 4 fresh ones that surround your car. Now, what I was going to say a little bit earlier is that Calistani is the one behind Lindsay, and it's Rasmussen chasing him down. He's got 4 laps to go. It's down to 7 seconds, 8 seconds between them. It actually might be kind of close for this 6th spot.
Yeah, I think Calistani's got it, honestly, Joe. I mean, the newer tyres that the rest of the field had aren't that new anymore, and Calistani's tyres seem to have plateaued. And, yeah, as you mentioned, nothing he could do was ever going to be a race-winning strategy. This was a gamble he took. I don't know how educated of a gamble it was. He might have practiced doing 39-lap stints early on in the week. But it seems to have paid off quite well, because he's going to come out of here today with, it looks like, a 6th place finish.
And on screen, we saw Lindsay get very close to the back of Domingo. The Iberian driver probably looking in his mirrors now, thinking another good run like that. Oh, and a big bobble coming out of club for Benjamin Lindsay is going to lose him time. The American pushing hard on this car.
And last lap is about to start as Tommy Oscar brings... sorry, it is not about to start because there are 39 laps in this race, not 38.
One too short there. I'm sure Tommy's going to wish that it was 38. Oh, and that is why, because he's getting to be on very old tires as he struggles his way out of Copse. This thing is not over yet, Sam. A mistake with only 1.8 seconds between Oscar and Montañez, even a small mistake, could open this thing wide open.
And a mistake by Montañez with only about 1.8 seconds over Talman could result in a change for 2nd, too.
I believe it's about 3.3 between Montañez and Talman right now. He's a little farther back, but yeah, that's still plenty close. The top 5 actually are all within 8 seconds of one another. A single spin will send you down that as far as that.
Well, that 3.3 seconds is new, Joe. Talman must have had a mistake this lap, because last time at the line, there was only 1 second between Jorge and Aurelian. So Talman must have made a mistake this lap, and now Domingo's only a second back of him.
So the plot thickens there, and especially if a mistake happens in front of Talman, he's going to be kicking himself knowing he could have been in that fight. As we check back in on our leader, Osgard has not led the whole way. In fact, he didn't even qualify as good as he probably would have wanted. Starting this thing in second on the front row. Well, he's just got to go 3 more miles to take home the checkered flag today. He missed out over at the Nürburgring. We talked to him afterwards. He said that he considered this one a bit of a home race because he actually is a driver trainer here at Silverstone. Well, I think that personal knowledge, even if this is the old version of the track, is certainly coming in handy, as he's now got a gap of about 1.4 seconds. So Montañez, though he's closing in, I think right now Tommy's just nursing this car home, managing the gap. Down towards Abbey. Just a few more corners to go. The Scandinavian fought hard for this one. He thought hard for this one. Used strategy to get himself ahead and has done so brilliantly. He's had to wrestle this car around. We've seen a number of scary moments getting sideways into these corners and out of these corners in this McLaren. But Tommy Osgard, despite that gap coming down, is going to nurse it home to take the win here in round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series.
The rest of the top 7 positions should change. It should remain the same. One position that could be threatened here is Evan Lathoris running in 8th place. He is under a lot of pressure from Peyo Peeve in 9th in the closing stages of this one. Peeve has been alongside him and Lathoris is off. Lathoris is off, and Peeve looking down the inside. Lathoris goes off again, and that's going to hand it to Peeve.
Oh, buckling under the pressure. Evan Lathoris, after making such good drives in previous races, finally cracks a little bit. They'll have to settle for 9th, sadly. Behind them, we've got Kevin Fortman and Germanton in a close fight, but as they come to line, this one's going to go to the DH driver of Fortman. Our podium is going to be Montañez and Talman. Good races from them. Montañez going from 3rd to 2nd. Talman going to be a little more disappointed after his good qualifying pace, having to go down to the bottom step of the podium. As we get the last of our cars across the line, we're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away, though, because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Silverstone Circuit. We just watched round 4 of the iRacing Grand Prix Series, and Tommy Osgaard pulled a brilliant strategy move to get himself into the lead and never looked back from there to take the win today. Jorge Montañez is looking on the bright side of things. After the race, he said there was only 1 second to a Coanda car, so he's not disappointed with that. Aurélien Talmon finished in third after starting on the pole, falling down the order with a hard-fought battle and an unfortunately timed pit stop. Manu Domingo keeps fourth over Benjamin Lindsay, who really pressured him the whole way on that one, with Matteo Calistani not taking a pit stop this entire race and managing to take 6. Well, we criticized him for it, but, I think he pulled it off. I think that worked out in his favor. Rasmussen came home behind him in 7th, with Peo Pive coming in 8th. Evan Lathoris finishing in 9th, losing that spot in the last lap with a few quarters to go. And then the last of the top 10 is Pierre Faber.
Richard Arnaud salvaged an 11th place finish despite accumulating 13 incident points during the course of the race. Kevin Fortman came home behind him in 12th ahead of Kyle Germanton. Stefan Schmidt finished in that penultimate position that was so hard fought for, ahead of Ollie Kwoku, came home on the short side of the stick here. 15th place. That really doesn't tell you the story of how good the whole field these drivers were. I mean, they all finished on the lead lap in the top split of a weekend day iRacing Grand Prix race, where they're all A-class or pro-class drivers. So still a good race by those guys back here. Unfortunately, 2 retirements at the end. Hometown hero, or at least countryman, Harrison Finch, and Tanguy Petrozzoli, who was up with the race early on.
Well, a bit of a hometown hero really is Tommy Osgaard. We mentioned that he actually drove on this track, trading people in real life. Well, it seemed to come in handy today. And Tommy, you said you wanted a home win. You got a home win.
Yeah, very happy with that. It was a tough race. Didn't have the best of starts, so I was sitting there in P4, and I just couldn't get by anyone, so I decided to try to pit early because it looked like I had a little advantage at the end of the first stint. So I was hoping my tires would last, but limited testing, so I didn't quite know. But yeah, it got a bit edgy at the end, but very happy to take the win.
Yeah, and tell us about that pit stop and being able to jump the other drivers. Were you surprised it worked as well as it did? Because I wasn't sure if you were aware of everybody else battling when you came in for your stop to kind of help you jump them.
Yeah, I was really surprised, to be honest, because I didn't quite know when people were expecting to pit. So I just knew I had to pit early to try to get that jump. But I was expecting people to pit right after me. And I hadn't done any practice on the pit entry, so I lost quite a bit of time there. Was a bit slow coming into the pit. And then I was stuck in traffic on my 2nd or 3rd lap with new tires. So I just thought, I'm not going to jump anyone out. But luckily I came out ahead of everyone. So yeah, happy with that. Good surprise.
I would be too. So you mentioned having actually been a driver trainer on this track in real life. Was it this layout or was it the new one? And do you feel that it actually did help you be fast here today?
That'll be the new layout that I've driven on and also coach drivers on. I don't think it really mattered that much today. Every track is different. So, but definitely all my background has helped me to where I am today. So very happy with that.
Certainly seems the case. Congratulations on the win. Go celebrate for making up for last week.
Thank you very much. I'll jump to watch F1 now.
All right.
Thanks for the broadcast, guys.
No problem. Thanks for talking to us. That was Tommy Osgaard, our winner here today. 2nd place behind him, who said he wasn't that disappointed with the finish, is Jorge Montañez. Well, he got beat by the driver who seemed to be the only one that could challenge him last week. So, Jorge, you said you're not disappointed with being beat by a Coanda car. What do you think it's going to take to overtake those guys?
Yeah, it's really difficult to overtake here, and I was quite happy for being at only 1 second from a Quanta car. But to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with the pits, because when Tommy did the undercut, Aurelian Talmon half spawned in front of us, and we lost like 2 seconds there battling, and there Tommy won the race. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the result, but it could have been better, so I'm a little bit disappointed only.
Sam?
Yeah, you mentioned Oriel and half spinning. Was that what happened on that lap right after Oscar went into the pits? Because we noticed you two were fighting for position. Is that what triggered that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But still, you say you won last time out at the Nürburgring. You got a second place finish here this week. Next race we go to Montreal. Do you think you could get another podium finish there? And do you think you can return to the top step of a podium?
I think I can do a podium, but if people fast like Tommy or my own teammates or Aurelian show up, it's not a circuit where I'm very fast, so I will try just to be a podium, but I don't think I will be able to win.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck there, Jorge. Congratulations on the second place finish. Commiserations it wasn't one spot higher.
Thank you.
And it looks like that's the only interviews that we'll be able to get in today. Don't have anybody else waiting in the waiting room. If you're watching, definitely come and talk to us next week if you're one of the drivers, because we love hearing from what the experience is like out on a track. Before we go, we want to thank a few people. Of course, we want to thank the iGPS community and the drivers that have donated. If we have time to pull that graphic up again, there we go, so that we can give a proper thank you to everybody who has come forward to bring us to air this season. Thanks to Jan Brzezina for helping organize that as well, getting the community together. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media channels. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel. We're on Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well, so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, this one's going to be a lot more punishing. We're heading over here to North America for Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. That'll be Sunday, April 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.